Julia, thank you so much for giving up your time today. Where do we find you? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I am in Flagstaff, Arizona right now.
Nice. It's kind of a running mecca up there, right? If you're
Oh
not a
yes.
serious endurance runner, like you need to be there.
Yep. No, I love it here. I love the running community. There's also a bunch of like triathletes here, mountain bikers. So yeah, a lot of endurance sports.
Do you ever get to have a go and just like switch sports for a bit, do some cycling and
No,
stuff?
and I despise cycling, so you will not catch me doing that voluntarily.
Why do you despise it?
Oh, I don't like the wind, and I feel like when you're on the bike, it's always windy, and I like biking like I had to bike to school, so like, a leisurely little bike back and forth to school, but like biking for long periods of time is just I can't get behind it. I don't enjoy it.
That is so funny, isn't it? Because there'll be so many people out there that say running for a long time. I cannot get behind it. But
running, like, it's never more than like, I don't know, okay, max maybe 3 hours, right? But you're never doing like 3 hours continuous unless you're in like a marathon, right? Biking, you got to bike for like 5-6 hours a day. I don't want to do that.
So it's a flat no from Julia for trying.
Oh yeah, it's a hard no. There's no way.
And I would like to point out, I've never run for 3 hours in my life. That also sounds absolutely horrendous.
Honestly, it doesn't sound very fun to me either. I don't want to run for 3 hours straight.
Good thing you're fast, so you don't have to run. You don't have to run for 3 hours. So we're talking to you as part of our build up into this year's London Marathon. It's been widely publicised. Of course, you grew up in the UK. You've done the mini marathon, but like it must be such a thrill to be heading for that elite start line.
Yeah, I am so excited. I feel like I moved to the States, and people talk about marathons and they're like, "Oh, my bucket list marathon is, they talk about all these different marathons in the US, and I'm like, my bucket list marathon that I grew up like watching on the TV, that I grew up being like, "Oh, like I want to be in that one day," is the London Marathon, cuz like that's what I grew up with. And I remember I ran the mini marathon, the last 3 miles of the marathon course. And I think that was my first ever road race. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was. And I loved it. I was like, I love running on the roads. I had a great race. I had a great time. And ever since that, I was like, I want to do the marathon version.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I feel the same. If I was ever going to manage a marathon, that'd be the one. But, it's one thing kind of idolizing something like the London Marathon. It's another thing to be on that elite start line, just running it at one point alongside sort of being one of the best athletes on the start line. As we get closer to the event, how's the balance between nerves and excitement? Is it shifting, or are you managing to keep it quite pure?
Yeah. I think it's still a lot of excitement. I think especially because honestly, like I haven't been back to England in so long that I'm just really excited to go back. I think I am kind of just so excited to see my friends, so excited to be back in England and the whole process that, yeah, I am obviously really nervous, and I also do just tend to get really nervous for races. But at the same time, right now, I'm just like, I'm so excited to go back to England and back home. I really can't wait, and I already have plans to go see all my friends. So I'm just so excited about all of that honestly, I don't really feel any kind of like a dread or negativity right now. I'm sure at some point it will hit me that I'm like, okay, I still have to actually run a marathon. But right now it's still just a lot of excitement. And I also think I'm far out enough that I can still, get away with it being excitement rather than having to be too tunnel vision.
And I guess because of your story and all these different places that you've been and that you come from, and everyone tries to claim you in their way. Like this is sort of a home run, right? And we know that there are intelligent crowds who come and watch marathons. They will know that there'll be a lot of people there who I think are rooting for you. Is that a cool aspect for you as well?
Yes, definitely. It is weird for me too, because I do truly feel like I have multiple homes. So it is a little hard sometimes because I feel like I should almost pick one, but I don't want to. Like I grew up in England. That's where I started running. That's where like all my friends are. But at the same time, like my whole family is from Uruguay. And when I go to Uruguay, like that feels like home. So I do think it's really exciting, and I like that I have all these kind of different aspects, and it's fun because I get like triple the amount of people supporting me.
Yeah, that's so true. Did you want that, Hannah, in your career? You could just go to any country and just have all these people rooting for you.
I had the conundrum that I could have represented Scotland. I've got enough heritage to represent Scotland, but I thought I wouldn't be welcome with my surname. I thought I could line up in a Scottish vest and just get booed because my surname's England. But so I never quite had that. Yeah, never quite had the opportunity. But Julia, you've spoken as well about sort of maybe formative years, if you like, the university years spent in America. And when we look at that from an athletic point of view, you weren't a massively high achiever in college. And forgive me if I hope that's okay to say that, but it's
it's true.
and I find within that NCAA system, there's this really black and white attitude that you make you're all American, or you get top 6 at NCAAs and you go pro, or nothing, or you stop. And for a short period for you, it was stop. You did step away from competing and training at a high level. Like, yeah, how was that experience in college? And would you ever have dreamed you would have got into being a professional athlete?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that I'm really grateful for beginning my running journey in England for, because I remember when I was, I started running, I never thought of it as, okay, I want to go to the States, I want to get, my college paid for, hopefully, and then after that, like, that's it. I'm either going to go pro or I'm going to stop running. I remember growing up and being like, okay, like what is happening in my running journey right now? But I never had an end date set to it. And I remember getting to the States my freshman year, and the kind of fifth year and the seniors were saying like, yeah, like once I'm done this year, like I'm never putting on a pair of running shoes ever again. And I remember just being shocked by that kind of mentality. My parents also, they run like to keep fit. They've never run competitively, but I think that too probably also helped my mindset in thinking that there was like no kind of end date. I was always like, I'm going to do this for as long as I can, for as best as I can, and then whenever I have to stop, and I'll just kind of see where I'm at. My club was also filled with people of all different ages, people coming down to the track after work, like all these different families in a variety of ages. So I never thought, okay, you finish in college and that's it. Like you're either pro or bust, like that's it. So I do think that's something I am very grateful for, and one of the reasons that I still carried on running. But I think the NCAA is just so tough with, you have to, especially as a distance athlete, you have cross country, you have indoor, you have outdoor. There's just no break. And the break, even so, is like you get like a down week. But even then, you feel like everyone is just running these times that are so fast that your breaks don't even feel like breaks, because you're like, I got to get ready for the next season, because honestly, like it's right around the corner. So I think that is a really kind of difficult aspect of the NCAA. I do think it's a great experience. And I think the other thing with the NCAA is that, you don't know the experience you're going to get. So all the colleges and all the universities are so different. So people ask like, oh, would you do it again? Do you regret going, or this or that? And it's like, you don't know until you try. My experience at Penn State was vastly different to my experience at Arkansas. And I think that until you go and you kind of take the gamble, you don't know what you're going to get. I have some people from England, they thrived. They loved it. And their college was also honestly like going to a completely different country to the ones that I went to. Like it's a completely different experience depending what you choose. So I don't think, sorry, to go back to your original question of whether I thought I was going to go pro or not. That was always my hope, and I think there was glimpses of that being possible. My freshman year, I did make it to outdoor nationals, for example, in the 5K. but then I think after that, I had such a rocky road that kind of faded, and I realized that wasn't going to happen. But as soon as like the opportunity came about when I was out here in Flagstaff, I grabbed it with both hands.
Mm-hmm. So was there a period? Yeah, because I was sort of trying to read into it, and you seemed to do college, and then there was nothing for a period, and then it was kind of a resurgence with a road career.
Yeah.
Is that the right interpretation? And like, how did those different stages come about?
Yeah, I'd say yes and no. So, I am very like I love the running community. I think that's also another reason I stayed in the sport. So, even when I was injured throughout a long time in college, and like after college, I still like I was following the sport. I was watching, the events, whether it be the NCAA or the pro leagues or whatever it was. Um, and I've always wanted to work within sport. So before I started running, I did also just about every sport under the sun. Once I graduated, I had an internship with the West Coast Conference. I've had different sports marketing internships. So I was always kind of connected, regardless of whether I was actually competing or not. And when I so after I graduated, I moved to California for a year, which was where my internship was. And one of the things that I kind of really missed was being connected to the sport. So I had an internship with the West Coast Conference, but I was working on basketball, I was working on rowing, or I forget which other sports now, but I was working on a lot of different sports, and honestly, I just wanted to work within running. So once I came out to Flagstaff to visit my friend Chrissy Gia, who lives here, and once I got here, it was just filled with runners. And I was like, this is what I miss. Like, I miss the running community. And so I think that being still somehow connected to the sport was what kept me going. And when I took that year break, it's not that I wasn't running. I was still running. I just needed a break from kind of competing and, being told by a coach, like, you have to do this or this. I was running. I ran 55 miles a week every single week, did a long run within those 55 miles a week, and strides twice a week. So no workouts, but I'd get moving on some of those runs, but I just did whatever. Like, if one day I wanted to do 15 miles and then the next day do 6, or one day I wanted to do 11 and then 7, or whatever, like the math, I don't know. But I just did what I wanted, and I did it when I wanted, when I could fit it in my day. And it was really refreshing just not having a schedule and being on my own kind of terms. And if I felt good, I would go longer that day. If I felt bad, okay, I'd just go longer a different day. And so I think that break, honestly, I just needed it mentally to just have a second to just kind of step away. And then, once I moved to Flagstaff, it was pretty much just like a snowball effect, because, obviously everyone here is competing, and, I met my coach, and then from then came that whole journey.
I think it's so important to hear that as well, because that whole like enjoyment element, surely that is the reason people start running. That's the reason they should run. It's the reason people go back to running, is they realize they miss that part of their life. And like, to hear you sort of rediscover it is, I think, sounds so important. And I just wonder, like, where you're at right now and throughout your career. You've talked about that moment, but have there been other times where you've had to step back and say, do you know what, I need to like rediscover this again? And are you enjoying it now?
Yeah, so I think there were kind of multiple things within that too, is that when I was in the NCAA, I was never getting any kind of, so yes, my freshman year I had races that went well, but throughout the rest of my career, it was honestly really, I never had any positive momentum. So it was either, I would run and I would have an injury, and then you're like, well, this sucks. No one likes being injured. And so it was just kind of miserable. And then I would get back, but the struggle of getting back into shape. And then I would run a race and the race wouldn't go very well. And so it was just like a constant, almost like, instead of momentum in a positive way, it was like momentum in a negative way. So then just being able to have a year of almost, I think what I needed was a year of no mental, like, roller coaster battle up and down. And that's really what I needed, because I think at Arkansas and at Penn State, well, my injuries happened more at Arkansas, but at Arkansas it was more, okay, injury, climb back to fitness. And it was just a constant yo-yo. And emotionally, that was really, really difficult for me, because, you know, I was putting in a lot into the sport, whether the results showed it or not. I was still putting in a lot, and just feeling like I was getting nothing back. And that was 3 consecutive years of that. So I think I just needed some stability of no big, like, emotional roller coaster. Um, and then I think that, yeah, coming back to the sport, I know that when I was running those runs in California, I would kind of find myself just naturally picking it up. And I was like, maybe I should return, like, to the roads. And I always wanted to run a marathon. So, like, I knew I was eventually going to get back to it. I just didn't know when. And then Rick Park, who is like a kind of, I would say, assistant coach slash, like, just someone that was kind of by my side when I was growing up in England. He follows me on Strava, and he's back from Cambridge and Coleridge. And he would be like, oh, I saw, like, you had a good run today, and, like, still would stay in touch. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should rethink this a little bit. So I think all of those things contributed. And then finally, again, sorry, these are really long answers.
No, they're brilliant. Brilliant. Keep going.
Finally, I think I had seen a lot of people that had taken breaks from the sport and were still very successful. I think it's different if you're still trying to run on the track. I knew I wasn't going to try and, you know, set the world on fire by running a 1500. I always knew that. But I had seen, you know, people like Jess McLean, and then Kira D'Amato, and all the Emma Grace Hurley. They had all taken little breaks from the sport and kind of focused on, you know, regular life, and then come back to it and had been really successful. So I think all of those things kind of made me think, well, I don't need to rush. The roads are going to be there. I am still young. Let me just take my time, and then if I want to go back to it, I will. And if I don't, so be it. Life goes on.
I love your insight there into sort of the NCA environment, and that it's not for everyone, and that it can be super stressful. And for me, it's very heartwarming for me to feel that, like, the British club system is something that can support someone through that. They can put someone on a path that can endure sort of different environments and come back out the other side. Because I think you're right. I had a similar experience in the NCA system, that I couldn't relate to these young women around me that were only running for this, you know, like you say, for the tuition fees, or you know, they were only running for their college, and there didn't seem any sort of natural joy outside of that, or like real love for running. I found it so strange. But you talk about going to Flagstaff and then feeling sort of back with your people. There's a big shift though between, you know, rocking up in Flagstaff and you know, finding your place, and then turning out a 2:27 debut in the marathon. You know, like that's not just, you know, for the joy of running. That's more. You know, how did you tap back into that elite mindset and you know, really putting yourself out there?
Yeah. So first, I had friends that lived out in Flagstaff, so that definitely made the transition easier. So I was already surrounded by people that were kind of, you know, training at an elite level. Like I said, my friend Chrissy Gear, at the time, I think when I moved here, she was training for I think it was the US, the track trials. So, you know, I came here and I was hanging out with her, and just by default, you know, I'm being surrounded by people that are training at a high level. And then I knew I wanted to represent Uruguay at some point in my life. So I swam before I ran competitively. I stopped swimming when I was 16, but I know even when I was swimming, I was like, maybe I'll represent Uruguay one day. Like, that was always my goal, has always just been, I want to get to the Olympics, and I will do anything I can to get to the Olympics. So when I was little, like I was like 9 or 10, I would be like, I just want to go to the Olympics. Like, I don't even care what sport it's in.
Cycling.
So, yeah. Yeah, we'll see about that. And so I always knew that Uruguay was a possibility. So at this point, when I moved to Flagstaff, I had already been in conversations with the Uruguayan Federation about switching to run for Uruguay, because I knew, like, I'm not naive. I knew there was a lot more opportunities in running for Uruguay. I also thought I've already represented Great Britain. I have kind of done that aspect of my life, and it would just be really nice to my family to represent Uruguay and be able to honor Uruguay. Um, so I made the switch, and then I was on a run out here with my now training partner, Danny Polarecki, and I didn't have a coach. And I was on a run, and I was kind of talking to her, explaining to her my background. And I said, yeah, I kind of need a coach. I want to get back into like competing. I have a remote job at this point. I'm not really in a rush, but like it is something I would like to do. And she goes, well, my husband's looking to grow our women's team. You should talk to him. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Like, I have nothing to lose. And the group that I now run with, McCurdy Trained, I loved it because it's a group of people that some are sponsored, some aren't. A lot of people in my team have regular jobs, and then they fit running in. And I really liked the idea of, I am running for me on my own terms. I have, a coach and teammates that obviously like want me to do well, but there's not this huge financial, pressure of, oh, I need to bring results to this team because I'm on this scholarship or whatever. This is on my own terms. So I met with my now coach, Jack Polarecki, and I loved his approach to training too. That was something that I thought was really exciting. And I liked just the way that he approached things. Very calm, very, very logical, very kind of level-headed. And I just enjoyed everyone I was running with on my team. And then from there, just by being coached by him, it sounds like I'm missing out details when I say it all snowballed, but it truly did. Like I started doing workouts, slowly did more workouts, and then we were like, okay, let's hop in this race. The race went well. Okay, let's hop in this race. The race went well. Okay, what do you think about doing a marathon? Sure, why not? Like at this point it was, what do I have to lose? Like my job, I still had a full-time job that I was doing remotely, so like I have nothing to lose, so why not? And I think, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up going from, I don't know if I want to do this anymore to the 227.
So I'm so intrigued then how your perspective would change after having produced a 227. And especially the way you talk about it there is kind of like, oh, this is going well. Let's try this. Oh, that's fun. Okay, I'll give that a go. Suddenly you're producing a time like that where people, sit up and notice. And then I wonder, like going into something like a Tokyo World Championships, how that changes your goal. Like what are you going for at that point then?
Yeah. I think that one thing that isn't seen from the outside is that I am producing, these results, or I produce those results, whatever you want to say. But my mindset since I was, a freshman at Penn State hasn't changed. When I was injured, I was still, honestly treating it like I was running 227. Like I was still doing all the treatment that I could for whatever like injury, IT band, whatever it might be. I had at that point. I was still, cross training with that kind of mindset. So I think the only difference was that when I was, here, is instead of those results showing on, on the spin bike, I was actually able to, show them through running. And I was also, like I said before, cross training sucks. I hate cross training. So I was just kind of miserable. So once I'm able to like actually get out and run, and I'm, it's something I'm enjoying, that also there's a big thing to say for momentum and positive momentum. It was kind of like, sure, like why not try it? Like this is going well. And then I've always liked the longer stuff. It's not that I kind of stumbled into the marathon. Like if you look at when I was like a junior, the longer it was, the better. I've never had a lot of foot speed. I ran the 3K when I was growing up. I liked the longest of distances possible, and I've always been like that, and I like long runs. So every coach I've ever had always knew I was going to end up in the marathon. It was really just I wasn't able to show any of that because, for example, I would get to outdoor season in the NCAA for the 10K and I wouldn't be healthy to run the 10K and show that. And then I don't really like cross country. So, you would think, she's a distance runner, like she should have done well in cross, but I like the roads. I'm a kind of rhythm runner and I like to kind of just lock in a one pace. So cross country isn't something that I particularly enjoy. So again, I think it seems like I stumbled upon this fast marathon time, but it was really kind of, I don't want to say always in the works, but like I knew it was in me for probably since I ever started running. I knew I was going to eventually end up in the marathon. Like that, Mark knew that. You could probably ask him, Rick, like anyone that's coached me, they knew I was going to end up in the longer stuff.
Does it annoy you almost in a way that, even the way I suggested that question, it's almost like that came out of nowhere, and actually exactly what you're saying, you treated everything like an elite athlete because you were an elite athlete and you were training with the right mindset, so it shouldn't actually really be a shock at all that you were able to produce that, right?
Yes and no, because I think like it is, I completely understand from the outside how it seems. I think it is just very kind of interesting because all my the people around me know that it's kind of, it's something that I feel like I've always aspired to, but also there was no writing on the wall that saying that I was going to run a 2:27. It's still the marathon. You still have to actually go do it. My coach loves to say it's a marathon. Anything can happen. Things can go wrong. It's not it's not a straightforward race, even though it seems like it. So I think, it does seem like it came out of nowhere, and it also kind of did. I mean, I hadn't I hadn't done a workout for over a year until I moved to Flagstaff. So, it's kind of a mix. It's a weird kind of twisty journey that got me there. And I think it comes with a lot of different kind of aspects to it. Some of, oh yeah, I am a complete novice to this, and then some of, yeah, no, she's actually been training for this for a while.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's really fun to hear that. And so you're getting on that plane to Tokyo. What were the goals? What were what was your A, B, C goal? How are you approaching those conditions and your race plan and stuff like that? Because it was clearly a lot of intent, a lot of, like you say, sort of elite mindset and everything that went into that performance. And we know the result, the fantastic bronze medal, but I'm wondering what was the process that got you there?
Yeah, so I think that with that race, first it was just wow, okay, this is really cool. I made it to a world champs. I think that just the whole year that I had leading up to it was such a dream because I had really lost sight of that goal of trying to run professionally or ever making it to that level. So it was just a really cool kind of just experience to be there, which I know sometimes you don't want to be like, oh, I'm just happy to be here, but I really was. I also, we didn't know that I had qualified until a few months after I had run my marathon because it was top 100 and I think it was every Wednesday the list would get updated, and it was the weekend I still had to wait for the Boston Marathon and the London Marathon, and there was 2 weeks left, and I think I was sitting in 94th. So we would refresh it and I would go down to 96 and then refresh it, and then another marathon would happen somewhere in the world and I'd be 98. And I ended up being position 100. So I was quite literally the last one in. I think with scratches, I might have been 80th or something in the end. But I think not even thinking that I was going to be there at one point, to then being okay, I am here. When I was on my way, I'm okay, this is really cool. I'm glad I made it. And then when we got there, things obviously start to feel very real. It was a little intimidating. You're getting in the elevator in the hotel because all the athletes were staying in the same hotel. You get in the elevator and you look next to you. And I remember my very first day when I got there, I look next to me and I see Noah Lyles. And I'm like, oh gosh, this is intense. And then I think I saw Sydney McLaughlin in the lobby, and then just seeing all these names, Jakob, everyone. So at that point it started to hit me. And then the night before the marathon, which thankfully the marathon was fairly early in the event program, so there wasn't really a ton of time to watch all these other races and get super nervous through watching them. I sat down with my coach, who again is so level-headed. I credit this to him all the time. I don't know how he does it, but I sat down with him, and one thing I really appreciate about him is that he never says anything he doesn't mean. So anything he says, I know he believes it. And he said, okay, so these are our goals. Like, this is our A, B, and our C goal. The kind of C goal was honestly just finish, because the conditions were brutal. Like, you would go for a run and it just was miserable. Like, you do the warm up and you're like, how am I even gonna like run a rep for my like pre-race workout? Like, this feels terrible. So the C goal was, just finish the race. Like, that's an accomplishment in and of itself, honestly. I think the B goal was like top 30, something like that. C goal was also like try and finish in the top half. But yeah, so then the B goal was like top 30, top 20, something around that, like just, top third, I guess. And then the A goal, which he kind of looked at me, and I looked at him, and he's like, yeah, so like on a really, really good day, I do think you could be top 8. And I kind of look at him, I'm like, okay. And he kind of looked at me the same way, honestly. Like, I could tell he was like, yeah, that would take like a phenomenal day, but like, it is possible. It's in the realm of possibility. So I was like, okay. And then, I went into the race, and him and my agent, James McCurdy, who's also like the kind of owner of McCurdy Trained, founder is the word I should use, sorry. But both of them are very, very good with preparing for a marathon. So they had me so ready in terms of, they said, okay, once your body temperature goes past that threshold, like, it's not coming back. So I don't care if you don't feel like you need it. You grab ice every time you see ice and pour it on yourself. Like, keep your body cool for as long as you physically can, and just like basically delay until you feel that point where you've reached your like limit. Pacing was also super important. We essentially decided to pace it as though I was at altitude. So the marathon pace that I ran was kind of marathon pace that I had practiced up at altitude. So, the 7,000 feet almost became the equivalent of the however many degrees it was in humidity. And then we had, I had that headband for cooling my head. So that was also something that really helped. So, and I also was told, like, do not miss a bottle. If you miss a bottle, like, you take one of the gels that you're carrying with you, or you drink like the electrolytes or the sports drinks they give you. Like, don't miss one, because like, it will catch up. I don't care if you don't feel like drinking it, don't miss it. And I think all of those things just, I think I prepared almost very well in the early half of the race for the second half of the race, that then when I got to it, I didn't feel like I was already past that threshold of I'm too hot, I'm depleted, I need more water, like whatever it may be. So I think that all of that, like, I attribute to both Jack and James. They were kind of the brains behind all of it. I just do as I'm told, and that's one thing I've been pretty good at since I've been in Flagstaff. Jack just tells me what to do, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it. So, that was really both of them, that they were really great in the planning for all of that.
Oh, I just love that Plan A was not even anywhere close to what the reality of the situation was. That is absolutely brilliant. And of course, the moment that you crossed the line and you found out you had the bronze went viral, and it was so heartwarming. And Hannah, Rich, and I, who do the pod, we talk about it all the time. And we did like end of season awards, didn't we, Hannah? And that came up as a continual highlight for all of us, for like loads of different categories. And I know, Julia, you've talked about it so much, but just take us back to that moment, because it was so special. And I think a lot of people just felt like your face and your reaction was kind of Tokyo in a nutshell, because it was just such an incredible moment, and that disbelief when you just didn't even know if you'd finished the race or not. Amazing.
Yeah. I do have some very expressive facial expressions. I kind of always thought I had more of a poker face, but clearly I do not. But yeah, so I remember running the last, it was probably like 5 or 6 miles. I had no idea where I was. I knew I was in the top. I think I knew I was probably in the top 6, but the problem is like there was people ahead of me dropping out, and I didn't know that. So, I knew that like the people I was passing, but I didn't know that people ahead of me were dropping out. So whenever I passed, I believe it was the woman in 4th, I didn't know that she was, sorry, in 3rd. I didn't know that she was the woman in 3rd. Everyone's yelling at you in Japanese. Like, I had no clue. Like, I really didn't know. At this point, I also, like, I didn't really want to think about it because I didn't want to think, oh, I'm in 3rd. Like, now I've got to kind of run for my life because this is a medal on the line. I was like, well, I'm in whatever position I'm in. It doesn't change what I'm going to do. I still just have to get to that finish line. And then when I got to the track, so the beginning of the race was 2 laps around the track, and then you leave the stadium. So in my head, I'm thinking I get back to the track and I'm going to have 2 laps around the track again, and that's going to be the finish.
Right.
So there are all these signs that are telling you 200 to go, like 400 to go. But in my head, I'm like, I don't know. I don't trust that. Like, maybe it's wrong. And so I was just really, really desperate, A, for that to be the finish line, and B, I wanted to confirm that that was the finish line, because the last thing I wanted was to stop and then someone pass me and then I have to keep running because I'm tired. I don't want to run any more than I have to. Keep running, or like have to put in some kind of sprint surge, because like there was nothing left in me. So there's a kind of picture of me pointing at the ground, and that's me trying to point to the finish line and asking the official, hey, is this the finish? Like, can I stop running? Because the 2 women ahead of me are also like, they're on their victory lap. So like I couldn't see them. So I didn't know, like, there's nothing that's like signaling to me like for sure this is the finish. So before I like stopped and was like, okay, I can finally stop running, I wanted to clarify. And then that's when one of the photographers on the other side, so like the guy I asked if it was the finish was on the left of me, and then the photographer was kind of on the right. That's when he yelled at me like, oh, you were in 3rd. And at this point, my brain switches from, oh, like, okay, I can stop running, I can relax, this is the finish line, to, wait, hang on a minute, like, I just came 3rd? What? Like, huh? So that's all the emotion and the confusion on my face. I truly, like, I really wasn't thinking about my place that much when I got to that line. It was really just, I want to make sure I can stop running, and this is the correct place to stop. So yeah, that was my confusion. And then, and then I got told, okay, you came in 3rd. And then I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. What do I do now? Because like, I don't really know what to do, because A, like, they send you all this stuff about what to do if you get a medal, but like, I didn't read it. I was like, I'm not going to get a medal. I'm not going to read that. So, yeah. And then I remember seeing the president of the Uruguayan Federation. And then that's when I kind of ran over to him. And then, then everything else is, the videos and stuff of me kind of celebrating.
Which were wonderful.
Oh,
No, and I'm wondering, how was all that media attention? Now we're a few months past it, and yeah, that was such a big part of such a big moment of your life. Was it fun? Was it invasive? Like, yeah, how was it?
Yeah. So the next like couple hours immediately after the marathon were pretty fun. I went up to do a bunch of interviews, and it was like an hour of interviews in English, but then I had to do like an hour of interviews in Spanish. And at this point, like, I'm running on so much adrenaline, like, I don't really care. But I think the kind of the after of that was very difficult for me. I am an extrovert and I do like to talk a lot, but at the same time, I do really like to, be in routine, be in my own space, like have alone time. So, I think that it was tough for me the next like few days and then a few months after. So the next few days I was really, really tired because, I'd just run a marathon and you don't really sleep a lot after. And so, kind of trying to be, presentable and be really excited. And obviously like it's great, but at the same time, you're like, I'm really, really tired. Like I just want to like sit down and not do anything. So that was tough for like the following days in Japan, just trying to kind of do all those media requests. But at the same time, like it was so cool that was really like a really small little factor of it. I think what I struggled with was once I came back to Flagstaff, the kind of media requests still kept coming. Um, and again, like really, really cool. Like if you had told me like my high school self that, I'd be getting all these requests, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like that's great. Um, but at the same time, like it is tiring. Like there's a lot of the kind of questions and are similar because, obviously you can't like, there's only so many things you can say about the same race. And I think that like, it was really, really tiring and really draining. And then trying to get back into training when I was still talking about worlds was also a little difficult. And then I had like a little injury pop up. And then that was also kind of a weird paradox because, you're doing these interviews talking about this really great race. But then at the same time, you're like, I don't know if I'm like going to be able to run today or I might have to cross train today. So it is kind of a weird paradox, I guess, in that way. Thankfully, like my injury was only a few weeks. It was fine. It was just like a little tendon thing. But yeah, I don't know. It is something that I've been learning to navigate. I think the fact that it went from 0 to 100 was kind of really what was difficult, because there was nothing that I had no idea that was going to happen. And so I think that was probably the hardest part, just feeling, I guess, a little overwhelmed. But my team around me was so great. My parents were great. Like I said, Jack and James, like they were so helpful, and they kind of gave me really good advice. They were like, we still like care about you as you, like not you as like the person that got this medal. So I think all of it was a really great experience, and I definitely learned a lot. But yeah, it had its pros and cons. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I imagine it would help being somewhere like Flagstaff, where you're rubbing shoulders with people that have done all
Yes.
sorts of stuff. Like you say, in all these different sports. That's got to help. And when you look forward to this next phase, and being announced for something like London Marathon, and the attention around something like that, I think it's one thing kind of sharing that success with everyone, sort of the big reaction to Tokyo, and now there's this next phase where you're going to get to line up for your dream race, but have an awful lot of attention on it. Is that daunting as well?
I think it was, and that was one of the things I was actually very nervous about, and I've spoken a lot with my coach about that. But I think that so I met with him not that long ago, and one of the things that really, really helped me, and I feel like my mindset has kind of switched a lot since he said this, was, you know, I'm still young in my career. I'm 26. Like when I ran at Worlds, I was 25. I want to be in this sport for a long time. I don't have to be like, it's not like the NCAA where I'm like, okay, like I'm done. Like I very much would like to do this until I'm like in my 40s. Like I look up to a lot of these women that are running their marathons and still PRing in like their 40s. So I think one of the things my coach had said was, look, like we're going to line up in London and we're just going to try and PR. Like you don't have to do these huge incremental jumps every time you run a race. Like, of course, when you first started, like you're a beginner, right? But like the jumps are going to be much bigger. But, I'm still just going to go out there and try and PR. Like I might run, I don't know, let's say I run 2:26. That's still a good day. Like that's still a minute faster than I've ever run. Okay, it's not this super flashy time that like, you wouldn't think that someone that got a medal at Worlds is, you'd think they're gonna run like, I don't know, 2:15, whatever it may be. But like that's not where I'm at right now. I still haven't run a super fast time. Like I'm just gonna try and get better than I was in the last one, and just like each marathon get more experience and learn more and just continue growing. I am still, I did have that really great race in Japan, but I still have so much to learn in my marathon career, and I'm still so new to it that just continuing to progress, and just even if it's incremental steps forward, baby steps forward, like it's still progress. So I think that really, really helped me, because I think that it kind of went from oh, I just got a medal. Now anything that I do that isn't top 3 is kind of going to be looked at as like a failure. And it's like, no, well, I still just want to go out there and just be better than I was last time.
Well, and also that kind of interesting sliding doors moment that you can have in life of if if you'd come back from Tokyo and finished 15th, and actually if we look at your plans, the A, B and C, that would have absolutely hit, plan B, and you'd have, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you'd probably been like, yeah, solid performance, tough conditions, a world championships. Yeah, you'd have been like, wow, that's pretty cool, like something to build on. It's just so interesting how different your life might have been if that had been the case versus what actually happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I'm extremely grateful for what happened, but I just have to kind of remember that I am still the same athlete that had that conversation with Jack the night before saying, okay, this is A, B, and C goal. Like that didn't change. So I do think it's just, remembering where I'm at and just honestly, it sounds so cliche, but just trying my best. Like I'm going to have a bad race at some point soon, not soon, hopefully, but like at some point it will happen. It's just part of the sport. Like it's just how it is. I can't be expected to light the world on fire every time. That's like, that was like a career defining moment. And, I'm sure there will be few things that live up to that within my career, but I'm just going to go and do my best and try and execute the plan I'm given by my coach.
No, and I love the way you talked about the NCA system and that conveyor belt and all that pressure, and then pulling it back to this next phase of your career. It almost sounds like you're drawing on those sort of experiences and those sort of pressures now to say, but you can hopefully you can check it faster. You can say, hang on a minute, stop that. This is, I'm running for these. This is what brings the best out of me. This is why I'm running. Which, I mean, it's tough. It's easy to say, isn't it? But it's a tough thing to do. And I think if we take it sort of away and look at this physically as well, London will only be your third marathon.
Yes.
You're only in your third build for a marathon. What have you learned so far? What are you going to take forward into London from the 2 marathons you've done already?
Yeah, so I think that's the other thing is that I'm really using this kind of build as a huge learning experience. So my first 2 builds were kind of on paper pretty perfect. I had, the perfect amount of weeks. Nothing really came up injury wise. I was healthy. Everything was, okay. I had a few bad workouts here and there, but like for the most part, they were pretty streamlined. And then this one, I'm having to deal with a lot more like emotional kind of not demons, that's not the right word, but like emotional battles after Japan, and then also had a little bit of an IT band setback, so my build has been shorter. It's been much more condensed, and that's something that I haven't experienced before, and something that it's like a lot of marathoners do have to do marathons on a shorter build. It's just the nature of the sport. So I'm kind of taking all of it as a learning experience and just navigating this new kind of world that I'm in, even though it's the same world but a little bit different. And again, like it's an international marathon. I'm gonna, have to get used to doing that again. Like Japan was my first one. And then this is a kind of more time trialing marathon. So again, learning how to do that. So I think all of it is just really taking it as a huge learning experience and then seeing what I can do on the day. Yeah.
You sound excited as well, which I think is really nice to hear. And it's like, again, as you keep reminding us, like still new for you. So it's like really great to have these experiences. So I just wonder finally then, Julia, what, if you can, I don't know how far ahead you think of these things. You've talked about wanting to continue running, but do you have big goals over the next, I don't know, Olympic cycle? You've talked about the Olympics, how much that means to you. Next World Champs, is it pure roads? Are you looking elsewhere? Like, what are the kind of big goals that you've got in mind?
Yeah. I would definitely like to do the World Champs, the Road World Running Championships that are in September in Copenhagen. But I guess like in the long term, I just want to get to the Olympics. That's been my dream since I was young. I want that Olympic like 5 rings tattoo. Like
where would you get it?
I don't know. And I don't want to think about it until I actually make it. But that's really, I just want to be in LA 2028. Like, that's my goal. And then honestly, throughout my career, just run all the big majors. I think that that's something I really want to do, and try and get my time down as much as I can. Those are really the things that, kind of motivate me. And I think, sorry, the
It's all
things that
right.
motivate me and kind of inspire me, and just try and create like a legacy by the end of my career. That's really that's what I want and what I aspire to do.
No, it's lovely, Julia, and thank you so much for taking us through all that and being so honest about it all as well. I think you've got a whole load of fans because of the way you executed that race in Tokyo, and they should stick around just for your joy of our sport, and just be rooting for you to protect that joy and bring some more fantastic performances along the way with it. But thank you so much for your time with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.